Alright, Tyrone TG3 here, Pocket the Monster, Hot Eye Zones, episode 101 and 102. These episodes are titled Terrestrialization versus Mega Evolution and The Night Encountered in the Ruins. So, let's get straight into it. We broke the 100 seal on Pocket the Monster Hot Eye Zones, so now we move forward. And I gotta say, episode 101 is there. Okay, so let me go ahead and just clarify here. Episode 101 is the episode where Roy ends up battling Nemona. And honestly, the battle itself feels dangerously forced. Yeah, it's Nemona. We get it. Like, Nemona loves Pokemon battles, so we know why this is taking place. I think my problem is, for someone who loves Pokemon battles so much, we rarely got to see Nemona do any legitimately good fights. I think you want to know what it is. I think we needed some episodes with Nemona, like way back before the time skip when they were in Naraha Academy, to show off her skills, to have her fighting random trainers, maybe fighting other trainers, maybe fighting against Team Explorers, maybe having her like 2v1 against the two Team Explorer members that were students and have her like beat them both, maybe have her fight against like some gym leaders. Sadly, there just isn't enough, and they're really trying to make her be like Roy's rival, but it's not working out because every time she comes to battle Roy, it's usually out of annoyance or like this weird eagerness, which, yeah, that's in character, but Roy doesn't like keep up with her energy well enough for it to work. And the one time she did decide to train with Roy when he was doing his little trials test, it was very like, okay, she's here, now she's not. Like, she's not prominent enough of a character. And this is something that I know there's an obvious reason for why it's not the case, but it still disappoints me, is that when the Rising Voltacklers decide to go to Naraha Academy, they're doing it because they want to try to get some answers about the Raccoon from Principal Clavel and Gita. And when they come back, obviously nobody's changed at all after the 1 year time skip. Now, yes, we know why. The real behind the curtains out of universe reason for why is because they already have marketed designs as to what they're supposed to look like in their card games and the video games and on their fucking toys. So they already have like designs. They already have prominent permanized designs. And in addition to all of that, we can't mess with those designs, even though we definitely can, because in the OG Pokemon series and other Pokemon series, we've seen that characters' designs can be altered or slightly changed. I'm not saying these characters have to grow exponentially like Liko and Roy, but it seems very jarring that Liko and Roy are the only ones that made any significant appearance changes. And I get it, they're the main characters. Their models are going to be used a lot more than Nemona, Penny, Arven, or any of the other characters that are in the video game. But that doesn't matter because the universe, it definitely makes you feel like, oh yeah, this is the Pokemon anime when you see this, because it's like, okay, this could be different because all the other characters can change too. And I'm not saying they have to like grow or anything, but a nice little altercation to their outfits wouldn't hurt. Maybe a slight hair change just to show us something. But no, we just get them in their generic video game outfits. And I'm like, yeah, if anything, this is your one chance to do it. The characters that show up in Scarlet and Violet don't show up enough to where you have to keep drawing these changes over and over and make sure they're consistent. You could have, to the very least, just made a slight change and boom, there you go. It just feels very jarring that after a year, none of these characters change their clothes. Ew. But no, jokes aside, like literally they all wore the same thing, and it makes the world itself feel stagnant. And like, one thing I like about anime is when several characters, even background characters, make a bit of a change to let you know that the world building of this place is moving forward. No one's the same. But here it makes it very clear the only ones that are going to change are the characters that are relevant to change. But whatever, moving forward, when the characters make it to Naranja, Ult obviously is a new character, so his interactions when it comes to all of this is very, I'm the new guy. Oh, I'm being introduced to all these new things. He gets confused as like a shady character by, I think her name's Dinja? I can't remember her name. She's the teacher that makes the very terrible sandwiches in Scarlet and Violet, but she's like the PE teacher essentially. Yeah, she ends up catching Ult only for them to tell them that, oh, Ult is a Rising Voltacular member. Also, the Principal Cavale and Gita both believe the Rising Voltaculars. They both do some breakdown and discussion of the Requiem energy and how it's affecting the Pokemon. It seems like most of the plot stuff is mostly just being narrated to the background to everybody in Naranja Academy. So there's a very clear understanding of who's the bad guy and who isn't, even though it's fairly obvious. With that all being said, while that's taking place, Nemona jumped at the chance to battle Roy, and it's a 2v2 fight, and what it is a very weird 2v2 fight. So the problem I have with this 2v2 fight is it's one of those, if one of the Pokemon gets knocked out, the match is over. Now, I know a lot of you all are going to go, but they did that during the tournament in Naranja Academy already. I know that. I still don't like that. Why? Because it gives the writers a free chance to go, screw it. If any of these Pokemon get knocked out, we'll just end the fight and determine a winner. And very much this fight is to show off that Roy has gotten older and has gotten stronger, and thus he's able to overcome Nemona. My problem with this fight is Nemona most definitely should have won the fight. In the fight, Nemona does a really good strategy. She uses Palmont and Cutiefly. Palmont and Cutiefly have a very good dynamic. Cutiefly not only protects Palmont while using Light Screen to protect them from special attacks, she also uses Sticky Webs to slow the opponents down, and she also uses Pollen Puff in order to heal Palmont while it takes on damage. It's a really good strategy. Palmont, by opposite, charges up its super strong attacks with Power Up Punch, uses a very powerful Focus Punch, also has some electric moves. It's definitely got a good moveset going for it. It even has Mach Punch for priority. Nemona's team is solid in this situation. Roy uses Crocalor and Lucario. Lucario barely gets any hits in the fight, and it has Mega Evolution to make it stronger, and Crocalor winds up eating the Pollen Puff. While it successfully ate one Pollen Puff that was meant to heal Palmont, it wound up eating the others, and those were the attacking Pollen Puffs, which means it should have taken damage. Now granted, Crocalor is a fire type, so it's resistant to the bug type attacks, but it was still getting hit by Palmont while all of this was taking place too. Just the sheer barrage of attacks that were happening means that they should have lost. In addition, Lucario's still a steel type Pokemon when it Mega Evolves. So when it was fighting against Palmont and fighting moves versus fighting moves, Palmont had the type advantage. No matter how many ways you want to rearrange this around, Nemona won the damn fight. But the problem is I have to believe that Lucario won simply because, one, Mega Evolution is being reintroduced into Pokemon because Pokemon Legends ZA, and two, Roy is the main damn character, so for the sake of progression, he has to win this fight. And it's so disgustingly jarring. And three, my biggest problem with this fight is that this fight looks stupid. The animation of this fight looks so garbage. Like, again, I have to go back and compare it to X and Y's. And you want to know the dumbest part? When they Mega Evolve and terrestrialize their Pokemon in the fight, the animation winds up being good, but the only reason I know that is because they're essentially using reused animations from former fights. They're just changing the background. But terrestrialization and Mega Evolution already have their own animations, which means it's not hard to make this look good for that part, but then it looks jarring when we cut back to the fight again, and the fight looks very terrible. It's It's mind-boggling. And when I look at it, I just was disgusted the whole way through. It's just a terrible fight. Like, ugh. So, after Roy main characters his way to victory, we technically do get another fight. While this fight was happening in the background, Dot ends up going to see Penny. Penny and Dot talk about the Requiem research, the information, they exchange data and access information, and Penny winds up getting some more information on the Requiem energy so she can distribute that over to Dot, which is how they get their lead on episode 102. Now, I'm going to do something a little different here that I normally don't do, but I think you all would agree that this makes the most sense. I'm going to go ahead and take some of episode 102 and review it into 101s, counting it as 101, and then the rest of the half of 102 I'll review as its own separate in this review video. Why? Because for some reason a lot of things happen in episode 102. Like the plot development in 102 carries like 3 plots in it at once, and they all happen in succession of each other. Technically 4 if you want to count the comedical subplot. But there's a lot happening in episode 102. So for the sake of making this all together and cohesive, I'm going to go ahead and take 102's first half and include it into 101 to end off that half of this video. So while this is all taking place and Roy roys himself to victory, we end up getting a second battle on the request of Penny to battle against Dot. Why? Because Penny and Dot have like a thing, they're kind of close, not like a romantic thing, like they're friends and they relate to each other. They're both introverted. They're essentially the same damn character if you really want to break it down. So Penny winds up using Sylveon and Flareon. And there's no real strategy here. It's mostly just Sylveon using Cute Charm to mess with Quaxwell, and normally there's no way out of being attracted, especially since they can't switch out Pokemon. So all they really can do is have Tinkatuff just sort of whack Quaxwell and knock some sense into him. I'll allow it. It's fine. I get it, makes sense. Also, Tinkatuff is a girl Pokemon, so I like the idea. She's like, get it together, you horny bastard. Like, I don't know, like that. I can accept it. Knocking some sense into Quaxwell does make it makes enough sense for me to accept it in the fight. It's something that's not out of the realm of reality. So when they fight, this fight looks very crappy. In fact, this fight makes the other fight I just talked about look better in comparison, but the bar is already like so low at this point. During the fight, Flareon barely does anything. I'm gonna be honest with you. It uses a flamethrower, I think, like once, and then like it doesn't do much. And then after that, Sylveon terrestrializes, uses Moonblast, and Quaxwell terrestrializes and attacks, and Quaxwell loses. I can't even give you an explanation. He just sort of loses. The fight's a huge letdown. Bad, but whatever. My biggest problem with this is that Roy literally won the last fight, so you would think, oh, we're gonna show off Dot's growth. Nope, Dot loses because screw it. Anyway, that is basically the end of episode 101, with episode 102 as a chunk-off piece. Overall, if I had to give a rating for episode 101 / some of 102, I'm gonna go ahead and give this... I'm giving it a 5. This is supposed to be the episode where they come back to Naraha Academy. There's this extreme lack of students at Naraha Academy after a year for some reason, whereas during the Naraha Academy arc, it was packed with people. And this would have been a good chance for students to be like, oh, it's the Rising Voltacklers. And you can have some students do the same thing they did at the beginning of the Mega Voltage arc at Liko's school, where some of them contemplate, are they good guys? Are they bad guys? Wait a minute, they were at our school this whole time. Can we believe in them? Can we trust in them? Like, this could have been a chance for moral dilemmas to go back and forth. This could have been a chance for characters to deliberate on whether or not it's good that they were students at the academy. Professor or Principal Clavel could have came in and been like, I assure you, they're still good people, or like, we could have had that, but The episode doesn't even tackle it. In fact, Naraha Academy feels dangerously hollow for some reason, like with no students in it. With the handful that we do see. We also do see, I can't remember his name right now, but he invented the Pokédex pretty much at Naraha Academy. He discussed a lot of information about Pokemon data and Paldea and all of that. Overall, it's just a letdown. I'm gonna be honest, Alt being there was kind of funny because he got into a couple of shenanigans, but overall, lame. I'm sorry, not a great episode at all. This was supposed to be a big, like, oh, Nemona versus Roy rematch episode. The animation doesn't go up to par. Roy clearly should have lost the fight. Barely any movement was done. Pokemon win in such cheap ways. It's a letdown the whole way through. Just, yep, 5 out of 10. Debatably a 4 out of 10, quite honestly. It's just not it. Anyway, we move on to a much lighter note on episode 102. And that episode is titled The Night Encountered in the Ruins. Honestly, much better. A lot of plots happening in this one. Like I said, for the sake of like keeping things sort of in order, I already reviewed the first half. They end up getting some information based on where they discovered, it was around that one time they were doing an expedition with Reifert, the history teacher. They go back to that same area in the ruins in order to pick up on some more Raccoon energy that they got word on thanks to Penny. So they go there, and when they go there, they also go to set up a picnic. So Murdoch gives them some like ingredients to set up a picnic, and we do see some character development for Dot in this episode because she's actually going on the picnic with them. She's eating the food with them this time, where last time she was so shy she stayed in the Brave Asagi the whole time and ate with Ludlow. Here, she's actually eating with the crew. And oh, we also learn back in episode 101, Alt still has like moving sickness. He can't be on vehicles, so he decides to make his room one of the random rooms in the front. And it's the same area where Liko's grandma would stay, so that was a nice callback. But back to episode 102, we see here that while they take a quick picnic break, they wind up getting distracted by trying to get Gimmighoul coins. But it starts off with a very intelligent conversation, and it's also something I should have probably talked about in 101. Roy is the one that actually flies the ship now, so congratulations on that. That's good. It shows very big. I love the subtle character developments that are sprinkled upon the fact that now the kids are older and they're taking the helm. So I do like that. Dot gets the character development, like I said, because she's eating with them. They end up making sandwiches. Alt makes a sandwich that I kind of knew he would make. It'd be a giant stacked sandwich with a bunch of crap on it. I think Roy did that when he was younger. Roy makes a sandwich that is stacked, but it's not as stacked as it was. Liko makes a pretty normal basic sandwich, and Dot makes a basic sandwich as well. And they actually have a conversation that makes a lot of sense, and a very adult conversation. They sat and go, wait a minute. If we're going to be traveling all around Paldea, we need to have supplies and fuel and things like that. We need money. We need money.
We've got to have money.
And honestly, yeah, like I like the fact that they're talking about this. Way back when I was reviewing Pokemon Horizons earlier, I talked about the fact that I like that they're actually using money and funds. We don't actually see them use the money, but we saw that like Freed and Captain Pikachu would take on jobs, side quest jobs, in order to gain funds to do what they need to do. Here, they bring that up and go, we need money. That's right. We need funding. And Dot even explains, yo, I mean, when I do my videos and my streaming sessions, we can make some money from that. And it's a very nuanced approach. It's a very interesting take because, yeah, like in addition to taking jobs, they're going to have to step up and do that. And it's cool to see that Dot is mentioning the fact that if she's a streamer, yeah, she's gonna have to bring home the money. She's gonna have to. It's a very interesting perception because back when the adults were the ones in charge, they made money doing just labor, where here, the money is being made by doing labor, but in a different sense. They're doing videos and streams and stuff. So basically, it's this era we've reached this era where content creation is taking the forefront of bringing in a level of economy. It's a very interesting take, and honestly, I think it's very nuanced when you dig deeper into it philosophically, because it's like, wow, this is a generation difference. This is how one generation makes money, while this is how another generation does it. And both methods are viable, but now we get to see the growth between one generation moved over to the next. It's an extremely interesting take on it. But I don't want to dive too deep into it. It's a Pokemon anime. I don't think they thought this far into it. I just thought it was interesting that that's their take on this particular subject. Anyway, they wind up getting Gimmighoul coins. Once they end up getting Gimmighoul coins, Liko's the only one that doesn't really do it. Mostly because she's searching for more Raccoon stuff. The others sort of get tricked into getting Gimmighoul coins, because this was what Roy fell into last time. He was possessed by Gimmighoul, and thus he wound up getting Gimmighoul coins. Dot, Ult, and Roy end up getting tricked, and honestly, while this is a very silly joke, I think it's absolutely necessary that they do, because this whole episode from here on off is about Liko. It's development for Liko. And that's really interesting. It's really cool. We actually end up seeing a lot of things be complimented for her. She ends up meeting up with this trainer that has a Capsakid that is looking for her evolved Scovillain. And I notice I'm seeing a lot of trainers that have like a baby form of a Pokemon and then also the final evolved form, like with the Litten trainer who also had the Incineroar. So that's pretty interesting. I like that there's themed trainers. Anyway, so Liko doesn't really pay that much mind until she realizes that Scovillain is the one that has the Raccoon energy, thanks to the fact that the Capsakid trainer wound up using a strong spear in order to make it more stronger in fights, but unfortunately that Raccoon energy made it go hostile. So it ends up attacking all these baby Pokemon that are in the ruins. Well, those baby Pokemon got separated and they were protected by Charcadet. This is the very same Charcadet that they met when they were in the ruins way back when they were in the Raha Academy before studying with Rhyhorn, which means that filler episode with Rhyhorn wasn't really much of a filler. That expedition episode that they did actually was very relevant because it carried over a year, although it is pretty funny that Charcadet stayed a Charcadet for 1 full year. But regardless, it's mostly due to the fact that we see that, Charcadet is still a Charcadet, but still protects everybody. And I guess that also shows the importance of Pokemon trainers. Charcadet winds up finding Terapagos again, and they form their bond like they used to. And while this is happening, Liko ends up meeting the Scovillain and tries to fight it off. Well, since Scovillain's part fire type, that's a hard fight for Meowscarada to do, trying to defend the baby Pokemon. But thankfully, Charcadet comes in and has the ability Flash Fire, which is good because obviously it could have had the other ability, which is Weak Armor. But we see that Amathio's Cerulege has that ability, whereas this one has the ability Flash Fire, meaning it can absorb the fire energy and make itself stronger and then launch a fire attack back in response, and it was able to knock out the Scovillain. In response, we get some really interesting information about Scovillain. Some Scovillans can have 2 green heads, some can have 2 red heads, some can have red heads on the left with green heads on the right, or some can have green heads on the right and green heads on the left and red heads on the right, and vice versa, you know what I mean? Interesting. I kind of wish we had that in the game where we had different variants of Scovillans. Yeah, I thought that was a very interesting concept. It's a shame that we don't get to see it in video games, but I do like that we got that little tidbit. In addition to all of that, though, it seems that Charcadet wants to protect Terapagos and the rest of them just in case Pokemon with Raccoon energy happen to attack again. So we end up seeing that Charcadet asked it and request to be a part of Liko's team, and thus Liko ends up capturing Charcadet, which we all know what this is going to lead to. Charcadet's going to evolve into Armarouge, which is the opposite of Amathio's Cerulege. It's a long time coming, but we finally got it there. And honestly, I gotta respect the anime for giving us a I guess a fake out because they introduced Charcadet before, but didn't have Liko catch Charcadet. So now she catches Charcadet after a year has passed and she's developed. It's a very interesting take, and honestly, like I said, I'm glad that the other 3 characters were unavailable because Liko really needed an episode to herself in order to develop further, because she was sort of getting caught up in the Roy/Ult Mega Evolution development, and then Dot got like her own episode. So it's really good that Liko got her own episode because she more than needed it. And it's also very interesting. Remember, there is a specific Pokemon that is on the Rising Voltacklers, like Brave Asaagi group of just Pokemon that live on the ship. One of those Pokemon is Sinistea. Now, the reason that's interesting is because Sinistea, if you don't know in the video games, if you beat enough of the Sinesteas, you get like the chips, the little teacup chips. And enough of those teacup chips can make the armor needed in order to evolve Charcadet into Armor Rouge. In order to get the other one, I think you need Bronzor, if I'm not mistaken. I might have those mixed, but correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section. Overall, though, after Liko ends up catching Charcadet and we meet up with the others, they all ended up getting tricked, but they returned back to the Brave Asaagi after they solved the Raccoon stuff with Scovillain, and they ended up getting data from the Scovillain stuff thanks to Liko's fight. So once they return to the Brave Asaagi, we see that Gimmighoul snuck on the ship. He's a stowaway, so now Gimmighoul is on the ship with them. And with that said, we continue forward and we stop from there. But the episode isn't quite over. We get some information on Amaltheo. Amaltheo's crew is looking for him out at sea, so that means he has to be somewhere, and more than likely we'll end up getting introduced to him much later on. So with that being said, that will lead into the events of episode 103, which is titled Stay Ablaze, My Love for Nidothing. That episode pretty much revolves around the fact that we end with Ayano requesting a meetup with Dot. And obviously when people donate to that IRL stream, they'll end up getting the funds they need in order to help them further in their travel. So I love that it all sort of nets together. But with that being said, if I had to give this episode a rating, I'm definitely going to go ahead and give it I'll give it a solid 7. Oh, not a solid, but I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10. A lot of events happen in this episode and they all happen in rapid succession. But I will say that I do like the Liko development, and I do like that they found a reasonable way to get Dot, Roy, and Ult out of the way without them just being generically like, all right, we're going to leave and leave you to the development. So that was good. I like that Liko gets a Charcadet capture. I like that Charcadet isn't weak either. I thought since it looked like a baby, it would sort of do that whole baby thing. But we're very late into the series now. I feel like it's not time for that. It's good that they decided to make Charcadet relatively powerful. And yeah, it all wove together really well. So I like it. With that being said, I'll see y'all then, everybody. Tyrone TG3, out.